session, we'll share this programmatic, integrated, and multi-sector approach of ADB's ongoing flagship program, the Greater Beijing-Tianjin-Hebei Air Quality Improvement Program. We invited the panel members from India, Indonesia, and Pakistan. We look forward to the fruitful discussion.
In the People's Republic of China, the Beijing-Tianjin-Hebei region has been among the country's bottlenecks for air pollution control. High concentrations of inhalable particulate matter constantly pose a threat to more than 112 million residents and has been linked to various cardiovascular and respiratory diseases and premature deaths. The central government of the PRC's national efforts have been constrained by challenges in strengthening environmental policy frameworks, adopting cleaner technologies, and increasing access to sustainable financing for small and medium enterprises. In 2015, ADB began supporting the People's Republic of China to mitigate air pollution in the BTH region and its surrounding provinces.
ADB supported Chinese government's initiatives in tackling climate change and air pollution through a multi-year and multi-sector lending program from 2015 to 2020, with a total investment of around $2.45 billion for 8 loans. Up to now, the project has supported more than 40 sub-projects through entrusted loan and provided guarantee to 471 sub-projects, leveraging more than $1 billion co-financing. Once operational, these sub-projects are expected to reduce carbon dioxide by more than 3 million tons, sulfur dioxide by more than 28,000 tons, and PM by more than 71,000 tons.
Due to its contribution to climate change mitigation, ADB's implementing partner, China National Investment and Guarantee Corporation, was hailed as one of the 30 best practices of nature-based solutions in the 2019 UN Climate Action Summit. It also bagged the Global Green Finance Innovation Award for building environmental and social risk management systems.
The BTH program addressed all aspects of the problem, right from supporting policy reforms, establishing green financing platforms, providing support for the adoption of high-level and cleaner technologies, as well as switching to fuels which were less polluting. ADB's interventions created and enhanced institutional capacity, resulting in sustained and long-term implementation of these initiatives well beyond ADB's intervention. In addition to addressing the air pollution problem, these interventions also helped in reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
ADB's overall support in this program includes strengthening policies and building the capacities of institutions, developing custom-fit financing models, and promoting advances in technology in key sectors and industries that can reduce both air pollutants and greenhouse gas emissions. These projects have strong support from both the government and the public, which is critical for their success and sustainability.
Now, there are other countries in the Asia Pacific struggling with this problem of air pollution, and they can learn and replicate some of the learnings from the PRC, and this will result or improve the air that we all breathe.
Thank you so much for joining East Asia Forum 2022. This is the day 2 of the forum, and you have joined the Regional Exchange 2 transforming suffering cities. We will now begin the session on managing air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. Let me introduce Session Chair Jiwan Acharya, who is a Principal Energy Specialist, Energy Division of South Asia Department of ADB. Over to you, Jiwan.
Okay, thank you, Akiko. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are. As Akiko mentioned, my name is Jiwan Acharya. I'm the Principal Energy Specialist in ADB South Asia Division, and I will be your moderator for this session. Let me also thank you for joining this session, because as you might have seen the video earlier about how important it is to look at both greenhouse gas reductions and at the same time this local air pollution management, because both of these things should go in parallel. What we have done today in this session is that my colleague Yoon Jo will make a short presentation about the program that you have also seen in the video on this greater Beijing, Tianjin, and Hebei province and what has happened there. I think it will be very interesting presentation and also the results that we can see there. And that will be the kind of a main focus of our discussion today. But at the same time, we also have 5 very distinguished panelists covering from our own ADB colleagues, but at the same time from Pakistan, India, and Indonesia, and also from ADBI. So they will also be sharing their own perspective in terms of what can we learn from this program in China, and how that can be replicated to other places, or what can we learn and what can be adapted in the different contexts. And they also have done a lot of interesting work, which we can also discuss in this session today. We have a very short 55 minutes, so it will be very, very quick that we'll go through, because a lot of things to cover. And this topic itself, we can spend hours in discussion. But without further ado, let me request my colleague Yoon Jo, who is the Senior Environment Specialist in ADB's East Asia Department, to make a short presentation about this program. So Yoon, over to you. Yoon, you are on mute, yeah, so you can begin. Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Jiwan. Good day, everyone. I'm going to present ADB's experience in supporting air quality improvement and low carbon development in China, a case study of air quality improvement in the Greater Beijing-Tianjin-Hebei BTH region program. China is facing huge challenges in climate change mitigation and severe air pollution as a result of rapid economic development and heavy dependence on coal over the past 40 years. It is the largest CO2 and SO2 emitter in the world. PM2.5 concentration in the Greater BTH region, which covers 2 municipalities and 6 provinces and generates around 1/3 of China's GDP, is more than 3 times of the national class 1 standard and 8 times of the WHO air quality guideline level in 2020. A study estimated that exposure to high PM2.5 levels contributes to around 1 million premature deaths per year in China. To tackle the challenges in managing air pollution and reducing carbon emissions, China has launched a number of action plans and government policies since 2013. ADB reinforced the government initiatives through a multi-year and a multi-sector lending program from 2015 to 2020 in the Greater BTH region, with a total investment of $2.15 billion for 6 loans. ADB's lending support evolves around 3 key pillars: policy and regulatory framework, tailored financing approaches, and technology leapfrogging in key sectors. The first policy-based loan was built on the policy actions initiated in Hebei province and effectively responded to Hebei province urgent policy reform and financial needs in 2015 and 2016. The second financial intermediary loan, FI loan, established a green financing platform to leverage financing and scale up investment in green and pollution reduction projects, especially for small and medium enterprises. The third loan is also an FI loan, which established a regional emission reduction facility to support the deployment of best available low emission technologies, targeting major emitters in some of the most polluted cities and provinces of the region. The fourth loan helps Shandong province adopt more efficient and advanced technologies for heating and cooling by replacing coal with cleaner sources such as natural gas, renewable energy, industrial waste heat. The fifth results-based lending aims to help Henan province to switch from coal to natural gas and biogas for residential, commercial, and industrial use through a sustainable business model with private sector involvement in gas supply in semi-urban and rural areas. The last loan is to scale up the second loan and expanded the geographical coverage to include the Yangtze River Delta region to comprehensively address the emerging challenge in increasing ozone concentrations and hydrofluorocarbon emissions, which has the global warming potential several thousand times that of carbon dioxide. Along with these loans, ADB also provide technical assistance for the preparation of the projects to enhance the project design and to strengthen the capacity of the executive and implementing agencies. I would like to give an example of how a specific project under the program was designed and implemented. The second, which is a 2016 Green Financing Platform project. This project aims to provide, as I have mentioned, better access to finance, especially for small and medium enterprises. It offers 4 complementary financial products: a credit guarantee to enable commercial financing, debt financing through entrusted loan, financial leasing for purchasing energy efficient equipment and other goods to obviate the need for large capital for small and medium enterprises and energy service companies, and equity investment in promising startup companies specialized in advanced low carbon technologies to help overcome the barrier of lack of credit history and the collateral. Just a few examples of the type of projects that have been financed under this platform. To avoid air pollution caused by burning of agricultural waste, we supported 2 projects in Inner Mongolia that produce biochar fertilizer from agricultural waste, which not only reduces carbon and pollution emissions, but also increases the income of local farmers. By the end of last year, the platform has approved around $125 million to support green transport, renewable energy, and biogas projects through financial leasing companies. By using fintech to offer efficient services to over 3,000 rural households in different provinces, the platform will provide around $30 million to install rooftop solar PV for poverty alleviation and power generation. In 2020, a clean energy equity investment of $6.8 million was made to help the investee to optimize its debt structure and invest in more renewable energy and clean heating projects. Up to now, the platform has supported more than 800 sub-projects, leveraged more than $1 billion co-financing. Once all the sub-projects are operational, it is expected to reduce carbon dioxide by more than 3 million tons, particulate matter by 72,000 tons, and SO2 by 29,000 tons. ADB's intervention demonstrated a success story of addressing regional air pollution and climate change issues. The lessons learned from this program can be summarized as: first, taking a programmatic and integrated approach to address these cross-sector and regional air pollution issues. Second, adopting flexible lending modalities that tailored the needs of different kinds of activities and sub-projects under the program. Third, leveraging co-financing from private sector, domestic commercial banks, and other development partners to meet the huge funding needs. Fourth, demonstrating and promoting green and low carbon technologies to achieve the synergy of carbon pollution reduction. Strong government commitments and sufficient capacity and ownership of the executing and implementing agencies to implement the program, and flexible design of projects to accommodate the evolving government policies and priorities are also essential for the success of this program. That's it from me. Happy to answer any questions regarding this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Yun. It's very interesting to see how a menu of interventions can be introduced in a situation like this, which will have benefits on both sides of it, and in terms of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but at the same time also managing the local air pollution also. So really appreciate you taking us through this program. I know 10 minutes was not enough for you to explain everything, but at least that gave us some kind of flavor of what that program covered and has done or is doing. So now moving on to our session. So let me now invite our panelists. Let me first of all introduce them to all of you. And after that, I have one question to all of them, which is because they come from various background in terms of their professional life and also the country where they are working or they are based. With that, keeping that background and situation, if they can also reflect on what they have heard in this presentation, and then if they have any questions or any observations or any reflections that they have, then this is there's one question that I have that they can share with Yun, and then I will invite her again to respond to that those questions and so on. So of course, in a random order, let me introduce my colleague Deepak Sahani, who is with Energy Efficiency Services Limited, who is also implementing various programs on the demand side management, also both reducing greenhouse gas emission, and also have a lot of local air pollutant reduction program also. There are multiple programs there. Faela Sufa, I hope I pronounce your name correctly. She is with the ITDP in Indonesia, the director there, is doing a lot of work on the transport, sustainable transport related work, which is also good. Vakar Jakaria, I hope I also pronounce your name properly. So he is a kind of a renowned environmentalist from Pakistan, and also work in a lot of work, has been doing a lot of work in in this issue and this transport and also environmental aspect of it. Yushin Yao is with the senior research fellow at the IDBI. And I think I have covered, and Shannon, my colleague, of course, she is with the East Asia Department, this principal energy specialist, now is based in Mongolia. So we have an excellent 5 panelists there. And then I think it's a good time to take a short picture, maybe.
Thank you, Jiwan. So let us take a group photo first.
Yeah, so please don't forget to smile.
Okay, it sounds good.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Kiko. So now, so without wasting our time, so again, as I said, my question to all of you is that because you come from a various background and various country experience and so on, keeping that in mind, what are the takeaways from the presentation that you heard from Yoon, and then any questions or any comments that you have to her, especially on this program? Let's go very quick round, maybe 1 minute or 2 minutes to each. So Deepak, would you like to start first? And then I will go around.
Thank you, Jeevanji. Thank you for the introduction. It is indeed a pleasure to be here. So in ESL, we have been doing demand aggregation projects. We have a national LED program, which has been huge successful. We say around 46 million tons of CO2 per annum. But to be very honest, we are struggling for the new avenues. We are still to get into MSME sectors. As I can see from Ms. Yoon's presentation, they have a green financing program for MSMEs. Which were covered under the ESCO model. So I want to ask Ms. Yoonju, what have been the project proponent for the MSMEs? Are they going for a guaranteed savings program or a shared saving program? What have been the key barriers for the MSMEs which we can replicate in India? So that would be my query to Ms. Yoonju.
Okay, thank you, Deepak. That's a very good question. So now, Vakar Chakarias, if you can go next. I'm just picking a random name here. Yeah, please.
Yes, just two interesting things. One, how were the project or program areas selected, where to prioritize what to do? What was the process for that? And the second, the green financing. I'd be curious about what kind of incentives were provided, because the banks also provide financing to increase the uptake. Well, what kind of incentives and policies were in place? Thank you.
Thank you, Vakar. So now let me move to Indonesia. Sofela, it's your turn now.
Thank you. So I have a question. How do you convince the government to have like multi-year and multi-sector projects? And then what is mechanism that do you use there in China? Because in Jakarta, if you want to have like multi projects, you need to work with like different ministries. And then if you want to also work with the cities, you have to approach the national government first. So it's if we want to access the loan, it should be like a two-level loan. You have to go to national government and city government. So there is more complexions here. So I think it's going to be challenging for us to replicate what you've done in China. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So now let's move to Yashin Yao, because I know that you have been involved with when you were at the Ministry of Finance, so you kind of negotiated this loan, I understand. So now you can see what has worked, what has happened, and so on. So your turn if you have any questions or thoughts and reflections.
Okay, thank you, Jiwan. It's my pleasure to have this opportunity to hear, to share my experiences. Actually, as a chief negotiator for almost all of these BPH cluster projects, and the questions asked from the panelists is also the questions asked to me. And for me today, I very pleased to hear the presentation by Ms. Zhou Yun. Yeah, she's a team leader. And also I have a question here. As we know, these cluster BTH projects, half of them already, all of them already in the process of implementing. Some of them already done. So I would like to ask Yun, during the process for the implementation of this project, have we done some big changes? Are there, why these big changes is necessary compared with our very original designing? So what is the impact of these changes? Just a very simple question. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And now, Shannon, your turn.
Thanks so much, Jiwan, and thanks to Yoon for the really succinct but yet comprehensive overview of a really complex multi-year project. I think from an ADB staff point of view, it's really interesting to see how different approaches have addressed different segments. I think in terms of air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions, when we're dealing with large point sources, it's more straightforward. So the mechanisms to actually tackle the emissions from the more dispersed sources is really an innovative feature and definitely something that we can all learn from and how to replicate. And my question really relates to something that Deepak and Vakar already mentioned, which is the engagement of SMEs, because oftentimes you find that availability of finance is not sufficient to get private sector to invest in efficiency measures. And so the incentive or regulatory requirements that had to go along with that, I'm very curious, again, as they mentioned, the approach to really get private sector engaged and participating in that. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Shannon. Yoon, so now you have heard these questions. I think they all like you. So that's why they have asked very simple questions to you. Keeping a joke aside, but I think these are very important and pertinent questions that I think I saw that some of the questions from in the chat also are along those lines. So if you could respond to those, appreciate that one. So Yoon, over to you.
Okay. Regarding, I will combine the questions of Deepak and Shannon regarding the SMEs. Actually, I think in most of the countries, it is very difficult for SMEs to access to finance, especially in efficiency improvement projects. But because the payback time is long and sometimes the return is not that good. For under this program, actually, we support, we especially providing the low interest loan to some SMEs who are dedicated to climate change mitigation and air quality improvement. We supported 7 SMEs up to now over the past few years through entrusted loan and also through providing guarantees, because it is difficult for the SMEs to access commercial financing. But because of ADB's good reputation, once ADB get involved in providing financial support to these SMEs, we also attract some of the domestic commercial banks to provide financing as well to these SMEs. The implementing agency, China National Investment and Guarantee Corporation, they are very experienced in approaching the SMEs and finding good projects to sponsor and to managing the risks. So I think this is the key for the second loan to be successful to approach SMEs and to support SMEs in this air pollution improvement projects. For the selection of project priorities, each loan, especially for the FI loans, we have a selection, technical selection criteria and social and environmental safeguard selection criteria, as well as like financial selection criteria. For projects that meets these selection criteria, we will be supporting those projects. Actually, there are not policy. You are asking about the who is Vakar was asking about the policy in place. This I'm not sure, but during the processing of this BTH program, we set different kind of criteria. Once the sub-project meets meet these criteria, we will support them. For Yixin's project about big changes, actually, I didn't see, I don't know any like major changes from the original project design. I think we made a lot of efforts during the project processing under the program. So there are no major changes during the implementation of the program. So up to now, I think all the projects, one has completed already, but for the other 5 projects, they are all being implemented smoothly with no major changes. Okay, back to you, Jiwan.
Okay, thank you. I think, we can also go on in explaining and detailing for this thing, but Yun, thank you so much for responding to these questions so quickly, so promptly, and also very direct as well. So it's to the point. So thank you so much. So now moving on to the second part of our session, to my panelists. All of you have been so nice to Yun, and you asked the easy questions to her. But now let me be the nasty moderator and then ask the difficult questions to all of you. And I hope that you don't mind that way. So Vakar, so you are the first victim from my side. So, you have been as an environmentalist, and you have also, helped design various programs and policies and so on, and also provided support to ADB and also other agencies of government as well. You have a lot of experience. But now you have heard what China has done through this program, what you heard from from Yun's presentation. Let's say my question to you is that if you have all the power, if you have all the responsibility, then how would you do in Pakistan, let's say in your context? What would you do? What would you bring it, let's say lessons learned from this program, or some of the other interesting thing that's happening in Pakistan? How do you scale it up? So over to you.
Right. Jeevan, a difficult question, and you put me on the spot first. I'll see what I can manage. Here we deal with a very different policy and institution and a cultural landscape, which my friends from subcontinent, I'm sure, would understand. And I think if you look at this, the China case, what I see is a fairly reasonable, strong institutional capacity, an institutional sense of who's supposed to do what, and a base to build on. And the political system also works in a very different way. We look at what is happening in China as something what might be happening in Pakistan 10 or 15 years from now. So as far as the technologies and implementation systems, financing are concerned, it's very clear that we are seeing and learning from what is happening in China. But the challenge of when you get into this landscape, how do you work with the local government officials, with politicians who have fairly short-term views of things? How do you balance between responding to them and actually bringing a sensible, well-thought program in? What compromises have to be made on the way? And the more difficult question, financing capacities, where the money is going to come from. So the good thing about, and we looked at when we did the work in Pakistan, we looked at very carefully at what China is doing. And that gives us an idea of where we might be, but it also gives us an idea of what are the principal barriers we have to address over here. And that's where most of our work, the prioritization of what we need to do is very clear. It is how, who, and whether we have the capacities. And that is where our relationship with ADB in the country is evolving, building capacities. I hope, Jeevan, I've done justice to your question.
You did more than justice, so I think it is very good. But I think the important point that you made is that we kind of know what to do. The solutions are there, problems are understood, solutions are also there, but the question is, how do we do it? And then this is where country context becomes very, very important. The capacity of the implementing agencies becomes very, very important, and other infrastructure, other enabling environment. This is where the policies and other things come in. This varies from country to country. And it is not very easy to just pick one very good example from one country and just replicate that others. It doesn't work. It has to be adapted in that country context. So thank you, Akar. So this is a good response. You did better than what I expected. So that's very good. Good, thank you. Now moving to Fela from Indonesia. So you also work a lot with the government and the policies and so on. So you heard this program in China. And again, Indonesia has its own challenges, and I think it's done a lot of good work as well. So if you can talk about this capacity aspect of it from the government and the policies, issues, and so on, or any other things that you want to highlight, which maybe, that you want to replicate in Indonesian context, or you want other countries also to learn from what Indonesia has done. So over to you.
Thank you, Joan. So as we are currently working in transportation sector, and then in Indonesia, transportation is accounted for 27% of carbon emissions, and 91% of it come from land transport. And we have a significant or limited education and campaign regarding the GHG emission or air pollutions, lack of knowledge, and also data to take a life course of approach. And I think learning from what Joan has presented, so roadmap, we need to have like a tangible roadmap, which aims to ensure that all stakeholders, because it would bring a lot of stakeholders, including private sectors, can take actions at the pace and also scale needed to achieve the visions. And then I think we should focus on a holistic project that leads to sustainability. For example, instead of working or having a project on solely financing the procurement of electric buses, for example, so we can package like the project into the whole system with a multi-year project. For example, in Jakarta, instead of working on project for procuring electric bus project, we can work on the whole project, starting from providing depot, charging infrastructure, electricity connections, including, of course, e-bus procurement. And outside Jakarta, because it will be another challenge, so the whole project, like bus rapid transit project combined with non-motorized transport project, that could also be done. So yeah, the whole holistic project with a clear roadmap that can ensure stakeholders to take actions. I think that's what we need currently. I hope that's answered your question as well.
No, it does. But I have one quick follow-up questions to you. In Indonesia, what is the driving force? Is it the greenhouse gas reduction is the driving force, or the air pollution is the driving force, or both are driving force, or managing the traffic and other things are more critical?
Like I mentioned earlier, that we still lack of data knowledge on the air pollutions. I think traffic congestion is the most driving for cities to take actions. So I think education and also campaigns on the air pollutions, I think that's also critical in our countries.
Good, thank you. So now let's move to India, Deepak. From your organization, Energy Efficiency Services Limited, ESL, has also done a lot of interesting projects and programs, and then have also scaled up your LED bulb program, we call it Ujala, and also your LED street light programs, and also you are doing these electric vehicles, charging infrastructure, and also this efficient air conditioners, and so on. So a lot of interesting work has been done, and so on. How do we, again, India being a big country also, I mean, it has that volume that is required to scale up some of these interventions, but at the same time it's also very diverse, and then it's not very easy to implement because of various barriers as well. How have you been, been able to scale up such interventions? Any examples that you have, especially learning from this China example also?
Thank you for the question, Jivanji. So to be very honest, our model has been very simple, but yet effective. So the model has been demand aggregation and bulk procurement. I would just give some numbers in here. In 2014 and 15, the LED bulb penetration in India was less than 3%. But in 2020, as per the latest survey, it is more than 67%, with around 85% households now using LED bulbs. So the approach has been, as I said, as simple. It's demand aggregation and bulk procurement. We have continuously increased our procurement sizes. So in 2015, when we procured the LED bulb for the first time, we procured an LED bulb at $5 for a 7-watt LED bulbs. Within a 2-year period, the price was 50 cents for a 9-watt LED bulbs. So how did that happen? The tender size, we increased from say 1 lakh bulbs. So I would say 1 million bulbs, we increased the tender size slowly to 50 million bulbs at a time. So slowly we increased the demand. We let the industries build their capacity. We give them a confirmed demand. And that's how we could achieve the market transformation in India. I always say there are 3 P's of project implementation. First is the product. Second, the price, which basically covers your business model and financing. And third P is the policy. So when all these 3 P's combine, I think then you could have the desired result. And that's what happened in India's LED program. So I hope I have answered your question.
Good, thank you. Deepak, one follow-up question to you is that because we also keep on hearing about these capacity issues and government policies and so on, how were you able to, or how are you handling such situation in India context?
See, for the policy thing, I think the directions have to come from the top. The directions have to come from the ministry or even say higher officials. So we are a state-run school. You can say ESL is a state-run school. So we are in direct touch with the government. So when the directions come directly from the central government to the states, then to the local discoms, urban local bodies. So those directions, those instructions help us in basically the project implementation. So the policy, the program has to have the policy push, which ultimately has to come from the government. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you, Deepak. So, Mr. Yao, now I will turn to you. As I was mentioning earlier, so you were at the government before the Ministry of Finance. You even were the chief negotiator for this program while you were there, and now you have a different hat working at the ADB Institute as a senior research fellow. So now you also have the also been looking at how other countries are responding, the issues, the challenges as well. And then you probably have also done some more research by yourself and also from your team there. How do you look at these issues of there is a problem is known, solutions are out there, but how question also is always a challenging. So how are you responding? How is ADBI helping in that effort, or any other examples that you may have or you may have come across that you want to share now, please?
Okay. Thank you, Jiwan. Also, I noticed that there is a question forwarded by Akiko from the ground said, how can you repeat this BTH project in other countries? So similar to what you asked, for interest of time, I only have 3 minutes, so I would like to highlight 3 or 4 factors. Even though we have a lot of experience we would like to share, but I just highlight some of them. First is a very good communication between ADB and the client country. And for this BTH cluster project, we think that's the most important element. In Chinese, we have some Chinese audience here. I just say a Chinese idiom, namely 特事特办, 兵贵神速, means we meet a very urgent demand here. Business, we should put the urgent business in with some green line. We can create green line. We can action faster than ever. For example, the BTH project, even the first project, it was approved by the ADB board by the end of 2015. And at that time, the project is not included in the business plan, the country business plan even, but please think of that. It's end of 2015. And then we create the business plan for the 2016. Then we include it in, and then inside ADB and central government of China, both of MOF and NDRC, we create a very fast green line for this project. This is just an example said we should have very good communication and deal with the most urgent business faster. Okay, the first. Second is we should have some foresight, forward-looking to design for this BTH project. We not only focus on the air pollution control inside BTH, Beijing, Tianjin, Hebei area. We also focus on what is the impact to the regional and global environment in a long term. So not only short term, but we look at long term. And not only the country-based project, but we look at regional and global. The second, that is in Chinese term, we also say 凡事预则立，不预则废. Yeah, we should have foresight, forward looking. And third one is where the money come from. So every project is an investment project. Where the money come from is a crucial issue. In Chinese, we say 万水千山只等钱. It means everything need money. Where the money come from? For this project, just as Ms. Zhou Ying introduced that, we got a diversity financing, and not only from money, not only from the domestic government, central government of China, but also ADB. And then because this project designed very well, so it attract other co-financiers come. For example, the KfW from Germany and AFD from France, and there's GCF, Green Climate Fund from UN. And also just like Zhou Ying mentioned, we have some commercial financing. They come to us automatically. And then we are from the first investment from ADB, just $100 million. And then it leveraged about $1 billion finally. For example, the Shandong Green Development Fund. This is just an example. So there are several examples. Just I point out this one. And then both I would like to say, after the money is ready, we should have qualified people. So where the qualified people come from? In Chinese, we say 得人才者得天下。那么怎么获得就是得天下英才而用之 ？It means, if you create something very well, you have a very good designing, and where the qualified people work for you. For the PMO, we create a very strong PMO there. But many people, they have management experiences, but they lack of green financing experiences. Project work with like ADB, World Bank. So how can we train them? We have that from this point of view. I think ADB play a very good role as a knowledge bank. We have best practice experiences. We do the training. Gradually and continually. We have the TA program helps them, and then finally all the people work for the PMO. They grew up. As I remember yesterday, the representative from Hong Kong, China, Mr. Chen, mentioned that in the area of green financing, in the whole world, we lack of talented people. Why? We couldn't find people who have very good knowledge on green financing for 5 years. Why? Because the green financing is a new issue here. It only implemented in its history is less than 5 years. So we couldn't just waiting for some talented people come to us. We have to train them, and ADB could play a very good role there. I give you an example. Every project implemented in China, after it completed, we not only left a group of some tangible achievements like constructions and buildings and such kind of things. After ADB leave, we have a group of people with very good skill. They are skillful, educated on MDB client MDB DMC country cooperation projects, and there is an interpreter even. She is very familiar with this SEG and the safeguard policy of ADB and such kind of things for several years. She just left the PMO and she created a consultant company herself. And then now she has a group of people working for her to help or to support all these kind of DMC ADB financed project. This is only one example. So in the world, yeah, I think every project has its characteristics. We cannot repeat one project in another country completely anyway, but we can learn something from it. And also as a knowledge bank of ADB, I also have one suggestion regarding the evaluation. I am very glad to know that ADB 2030 strategy highlights that knowledge bank, knowledge role is a very important role nowadays played by ADB. And when they do some evaluation, they have some evaluation credit there. And in the future, I hope it could be much more cleared and detailed, and it could manage the knowledge production by every project. So every project, it is like a university, like a graduate school, like a think tank. It is a knowledge receiver, knowledge disseminator, and it is also a knowledge producer. That's my point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Really, you made some very good, interesting points. Before I move to my colleague Sanon, one message to our participants. Sorry that we have not been able to, see you face to face. But if you have any questions or any comments, either general or to any specific panelists, please type those in your chat box. And then I have already been receiving several of those already, so I would like to thank you those. But if you have any additional questions, please feel free to let us know, and then I may kind of rephrase those questions and combine several to ask these panelists also. So please, I really encourage all of you to raise your points as well. So Sanon, so now you have heard that, or we always hear that finance is always a problem. So there is no money. Where is the money? We know everything, but the money is a problem. But some people also say that money has never been a problem. Also, this is just that whether you are ready to absorb or get the money as well. So if you could shed some more lights on this issue of this financing aspect of it, and then at the same time, since you are based in Mongolia, where this local air pollution is also a major challenge there. So if you could also highlight what ADB is doing or some other development partners are doing to support government of Mongolia in addressing that issue. Sanon, over to you.
Thanks so much, Jiwan. And I'll try to be brief because I do want to give the chance for audience questions. But I think to your question about whether financing is the issue, I think it's a necessary component, obviously, but it is far from sufficient. And we've already heard from some of the other panelists, the political will, the institutional coordination, and I think that this consolidated institutional effort, especially on something like air quality, where you're involving ministries of transport, ministries of energy, as well as ministries of environments and municipalities. I mean, the complexity of getting all of those stakeholders focused in a common sort of purpose and direction is really quite breathtaking when you try to do it, and very difficult, right? Because as we heard from Fayela, the actual traffic congestion is the main driver. So getting them to focus on the air quality aspects of it while also focusing on congestion can often be quite challenging, and usually one has to put one priority slightly above another, and so that is really difficult. But that's why I think that looking at co-benefits as a lens is really beneficial, because air quality impacts everyone. It's very democratic in that sense, but you can identify measures that have equal impact on greenhouse gas emission reductions, and so you're addressing public health challenges as well as global environmental health challenges at the same time. But but financing is but one small piece of the puzzle, I think. In terms of Mongolia, we talked about sort of the difficulties with SMEs earlier and getting private sector involvement. And the problem here in Mongolia is even more complex. So for people who aren't familiar, Ulaanbaatar is the coldest capital city in the world. Temperatures in the winter go below -30°C, and the heating season is 9 months. A source apportionment study in 2010 estimated that 40% of particulate matter 2.5 was attributable to GARE districts. So these are districts on the periphery of the municipality where people live in felt tents or GAREs or very basic wooden structures, and they have coal burning stoves in their households. And so there have been 20 years of improved stoves programs here in Ulaanbaatar, but consistently the technology is not the problem. We know what the technology options are, but we have to think about factors like affordability. We have to think about factors like behavior change, and sort of the household adoption of these technologies has been patchy, it's been transient, and even though the technology solutions exist, even though the financing has been there, the problem is persistent. We did have a major policy move in 2019 where the government banned the use of raw coal, and so now the stoves use briquettes, and that has resulted in some improvements in the air quality, but the levels are still unhealthy during the winter time, and most so in those districts and inside the households. So it really is a public health emergency that requires, I think, a little bit more than a technology and financing solution. And so hopefully we can work with our colleagues in ADBI, learn from the BTH experience, and sort of actually provide those knowledge solutions along with the financing. I'll go ahead and stop there for now. Thanks.
Thanks, Sanon. So I think you covered it very well there. So now I think we have just 2-3 minutes only. I saw that there are several questions from the floor also, but I hope that many of those questions are kind of covered through various speakers also. Yoon, you have been quietly listening to all these panelists and so on. Do you have any thoughts or anything you want to add at this stage before we close the session?
Oh, just one question. I think I missed Farla's question about multi-year program with the different ministries' involvement and also national and city government involvement. It is quite difficult for this kind of program to be implemented in Indonesia. I think I think Yixin may be the best person to answer this question because she involved in the negotiations for all the projects under the BTH program. But however, because of the strong central government commitment to air quality improvement and climate change mitigation, and from the central government down to provincial and municipal government, and they have formulated action plans and policies since 2013. So the government has a very strong will to improve the air quality and reduce carbon emissions. That's why when ADB talked or discussed with the national and local government, they are very willing to cooperate with ADB to work on this air quality improvement program, or the different projects or different sub-projects. And for one question about how to repeat BTH experience in other countries, just as Yixin said, there's no one size fits all. So just as I mentioned, if the government has a strong wills, a program should be designed with a flexible lending modality and also different kinds of approaches and financial financing approaches to address the cross-sector issues. So that's it from me for now.
Okay, thank you, Yun. So I think we are also running out of time. Let me also take the opportunity to kind of thank the organizers for inviting all of us for this session. This session, this topic is good. It's not because I'm moderating it, I'm in the session, but looking at this, the issues of both greenhouse gas emissions and this air pollution, these both will remain an important issues now and also for the coming years as well. So I think we need to consolidate our lessons learned from various countries through various projects and programs, and also work together in addressing those. I think we are in all of these countries as much as we can. And as it was mentioned earlier, there is no one-size-fits-all solution. Every country is different, every situation is different, every project is different. We should just try to learn from what has worked in other places, and then to the extent possible, so that we will not repeat those mistakes or take advantage of what has worked in other places as well. I would like to thank all the panelists for your panels, and also Yun for your presentation, for sharing your insights and participating on this one. It's very, very helpful, very interesting, and of course we could have spend much more time in going into the depth, but I would like to thank all of you once again, and also to all the participants who joined this session. I would also like to thank you for joining this session, and thank you for raising those important questions also. And I hope that this is just the beginning of our long-term discussions in the coming months and so on. So with that one, let me close this session, and thank you once again. You take care.